Hi, boys and girls. This is Mr. Tom. Last week we read about Noah and his family and how God saved him and some animals with a big ark that God asked Noah to build and saved him from a big flood that flooded over all the earth. But when they came out of the ark after the land had dried up, they came out and God told them to be fruitful and multiply and to spread out over all the earth. Well, the only problem is as they moved down from the mountain of Ararat, they came to the plain of Shinar. Let me show you where Mount Ararat is on the globe. So here is eastern Turkey, right here, eastern Turkey. That is where Mount Ararat is. And so they came down from the mountain, and they and their children and their children's children, and they came down to the plain of Shinar, right in here. They all spoke one language at that point, but then you think about today, there's all kinds of languages around the world. So how did that happen? So let me show you something. So in the United States of America, most people say hello. But down in Mexico and in South America, down here, when people say hello, most of the time they say hola. And then when you go around to Africa, down in southern Africa, the Zulus say sawubona to say hello. And then when we go up to France, the French people say bonjour. The people of Germany, they say hallo. And the people from Italy, they say ciao. And the people of Israel say shalom. And the people of Russia say privyet when they say hello. And the people of China say ni hao. And when we go around the world, when we come to Hawaii, the people of Hawaii say aloha when they say hello. And you come all the way back around to the United States of America, and when people speak Texan, they say howdy. So how did all these different languages come about? Because when Noah and his family came down from the ark, they all spoke the same language, but now there's hundreds of languages around the world. Well, our Bible story today tells us how all that happened. Let's go read our Bible story. Today's Bible story is about the Tower of Babel. Noah lived another 350 years after the great flood. Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives came off the ark and set up housekeeping. That means they started their new homes. Each of them had many children after they left the ark. That was exactly what God told them to do, to be fruitful and multiply and scatter across the earth, fill up the earth with people. Those children were the beginning of the human population on earth after the great flood. The animals that were on the ark had babies too when they came back on dry land. The earth was once again filled with life, just as God had intended. The people lived and they worked and they worshiped God. And they began to move, but there was a group of men and women who went to the plain of Shinar and they stayed there. They did not obey God. After the great flood, all the people who lived on the world spoke the same language. People who lived in various places could get together and everyone could talk to each other. They could make plans and talk about the new world that they lived in. They could talk about the great flood and Noah's great big ark that had saved him from the flood and his family. They could talk about anything. Apparently that was fine with God until one group of men had an idea. They said, let's make bricks and bake them in ovens. That will make them strong enough that we can build tall buildings. Before this new idea, buildings were made of stone. These men wanted to make buildings that were made of bricks and stacked on top of each other, and then they would be held together with mortar. That's like cement. Everyone thought that this was a great idea, so the men began making bricks and building the new city. They talked about their city as they worked. They planned what buildings they would make, and as they were talking, they came up with another idea. They said, "Why don't we build a tower in our city that reaches all the way up to the heavens? It will be the tallest building ever." All the other men thought that this was a great idea. "We will be famous for our tall building." Someone said, "We will be so famous that no one will ever try to break us up or make us move again. We will be powerful and we will stay together in our city because of our famous tower." Look, here's a picture of what the tower might have looked like. See, they were building their tower with bricks. And you see all the people that are working together because they can all speak the same language, and they're building their tower up to the heavens as one people. They were working together, and they did not want to move. They wanted to stay there, but God had wanted them to move, and so this displeased God. The men didn't ask God about their plan. Maybe they did not even care how he would feel about it. They should have known that God would not be happy about it. He did not like it that men were making plans of their own and disobeying him. God looked at the city and the very tall tower that they were building. God was not happy with what he saw. The problem is that these men all speak the same language, and so nothing is impossible for them, God said. They are building this tall tower now, and next they will be able to do anything that they try. God knew he had to stop the men. He could not have them thinking that they were more powerful than he was. God had a simple plan to stop the men. He made everyone begin to speak in different languages. Overnight, he had all the people start speaking different languages. So the next day, the people could not understand each other. So when they would say the word hello, they didn't even understand what each other was saying to each other. No one knew what anyone else was saying. Now they couldn't finish their plans. They couldn't even finish the tall tower that they had started. Then God did just what the men had tried to prevent. He scattered them over the earth. They all moved in different places. The place where God had started building, or the men had started building the tall tower, was called Babel, because God confused their language there. That's what the word Babel means. It means confusion. And the unfinished tower was called the Tower of Babel. And so that's how God took those people and had them scatter across the whole world. He had them speaking different languages so that they could not stay there and build that tall tower that God really didn't want them to build. Thank you for letting me read to you another Bible story. Remember that God loves you, and I'll see you next week.